hey, guess what? You voted blue and they screwed you. That's what happened if you're a worker, and I mean any worker. So the paid sick leave for rail workers just failed. Majority of workers want it. The majority of Americans support it. Majority of senators voted for it. Didn't pass. This country isn't even remotely a democracy. Very well said. A majority wanted paid sick leave for railroad workers? Well, not a majority of railroad tycoons. Am I right? Come on. Boy. Yeah. Senate votes to impose contract on rail workers rejecting paid sick leave. So they did it. They did it. So the railroad workers have real bargaining power. They have real leverage, and they're prepared to use it. They rejected the contract that didn't give them sick pay. Railroad companies are making record billion-dollar profits, billions and billions. It would cost about $200 million to give these people sick days. They're making billions and billions in profits. And the government stepped in to screw the workers. The government denied them the right to strike, which is denying them the right to collectively bargain. That's what that is. So Joe Biden and the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, the squad, they voted to screw you. And they did it. They just did it. Joe Biden. Go ahead.
So great about this story is, let's just reflect on 2 years ago when the largest transnational corporations operating within the U.S. were begging for tens of billions of dollars in bailouts during COVID. And they got them just so they could use this money to do stock buybacks. And AOC, Ilhan Omar, all these people approved that, and they had no qualms with this. But when a measly group of railway workers keeping the country operating ask for less than 2% of the railway company's annual profits to try and get 7 days paid sick leave or some days of paid sick leave, not only are they nowhere to be found, but they're actually siding with the private corporations and the government hand in hand to clamp down on these workers in a fascistic takeover.
So the president of the United States serving the interests of railroad tycoons. Boy, that is a blast from the past. Is Biden that old? Huh? Come on. So the Senate approved the bill imposing a new union contract on tens of thousands of rail workers and prohibiting them from going on strike. Now, what's more important than not only this railroad, this would have set the tone in the country for labor. Labor's winning, right? So you saw how Amazon is now getting unionized, how Starbucks is now getting unionized. People are coming together and realizing that left, right need to come together to fight the oligarchy, because that's what we're in. We're not in a democracy, and this proves it. This proves you don't live in a democracy. So when people say you voted for Democrats to save democracy, that proves you don't live in a democracy. You live in an oligarchy. The majority of everybody wants it in this country, except a handful of rich people who pull the strings. And that's that. That's that. So you're all suckers if you watch the January 6th hearings and believed it. You're a sucker. You're a sucker if you think that was a threat to our democracy. You're a sucker if you think we live in a democracy. And this proves it. And this was done to you by the people you just voted in to save your democracy. What you voted in was fucking fascism. Because that's what that is. That is the government and corporations coming together to screw the citizen. That is the definition of fascism, according to Mussolini.
Jimmy, I have, according to the Wall Street Journal, it was 80-15, and it has 15 senators who voted against imposing the labor deal to end the strike, represented both the left and right wings of the Senate, ranging from liberals such as Elizabeth Warren, from Massachusetts, Bernie Sanders, Vermont, to including Cruz, Messer, and Hawley.
So Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren voted against this. Did you know that, Jackson?
I didn't know that.
According to what she just read me. Where's that from?
Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street Journal says that 15 senators voted against it. It requires 60,000. This bill requires 60,000 freight rail workers who'd previously rejected tentative union contracts to keep working or face getting fired. Senators rejected an amendment. Oh, so then they had. So in the House, the squad was lying to you that they were doing the bidding of the unions. They were not. They were pretending they were. Look, we voted to give them 7 days of sick pay, right? And that's what the unions wanted us to do. The unions didn't want you to do anything. The unions didn't want Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer or Joe Biden to do anything. They got this. They organized, they have their unions, and they're ready to go on strike, and they would win that strike. That's why they had to do this, because they would win that strike. So don't listen to Ryan Grimm at The Intercept, who lied on Twitter yesterday. I saw him. It's amazing to watch these guys operate. They're such fucking, they're just like politicians. He went on Twitter and said that that's what the union wanted. That is not what the unions wanted. The unions didn't want him to do anything. But they knew Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats were going to fuck them over anyway. So then, of course, they wanted them to vote for a 7-day thing, even though everybody knew it was going to get screwed in the Senate. So what? So they're, again, running cover for politicians who are screwing workers. Last time, The Intercept and Ryan Grimm ran interference for politicians. It was around forced to vote. It was to keep the screw over healthcare activists in favor of politicians. This time, it's to screw over railroad workers in favor. So it doesn't matter. He's going to keep that access. Another measure, which would have added 7 paid sick days, failed to break the filibuster. So that's it. So that was it. That's what I just told you. So, of course, we as we predicted, the reason why Nancy Pelosi did it that way, she had 2 votes, 1 vote to end the strike and another vote to give them 7 days paid sick leave, because they know it could be split up in the Senate, and they would vote that down, and they would go through and there you go. And that's exactly what happened. Vermont Independent Senator Bernie Sanders spoke from the Senate floor ahead of Thursday's vote. And yet, today, in that industry, workers who do difficult and dangerous work have 0 paid sick days. 0. You get sick, you get a couple of marks against you, couple of marks, you get fired. This cannot and must not happen in America in 2022. So basically, Congress did their job, which is serving the interests of large corporate donors. That's what Congress, that's what they do. That's why you don't have health care. That's why you don't have a living wage. That's why they're sending $100 billion to Ukraine while everybody lives under bridges in America, which that money could fix. Because they only legislate for their corporate donors. You know how the wealthy who run this country, people go, Jimmy, do they have meetings? What do you think? They have secret meetings? They don't have secret meetings. It's called a fucking session of Congress. All their puppets get together to do their bidding and write legislation that favor them, not you, not the workers. Again, which is why you don't have health care and why railroad workers can't even get fucking sick pay. Now, they would have won that. They would have won their strike. And you know what that would have done for workers across the country? That would have done a lot. That would have changed the tempo. That would have changed everything. But Joe Biden and the Democrats did this to you. Just keep that in mind.
Not just Joe. I mean, it's literally the squad, the people who campaigned on being the heroes of workers across the country. This was the fundamental tenet of their quote unquote democratic socialism, was that we stand with the workers. Now they're getting outflanked by the majority of the Republican Party to their left. They're getting outflanked by John Hickenlooper to their left on the issue of standing up for workers. It's insane.
So the Congress did its job, which is serving their donors. Now it's time for the workers to do their job, which is basically the same job, but without any paid sick leave. And here's Bernie pretending to do his job, pretending he's doing his job. He's pretending to care about the direct effects of prolonged war in Ukraine. Is that what he's doing? President Biden, who pledged as a candidate to be the most pro-union president in U.S. history, has promised to sign this unpopular deal into law. He's going to do it. You know, he actually might be the most pro-union president in U.S. history. That's how anti-union the United States fucking is. There's a chance he could very well be the most pro-union president. I got to look that up. And so here's what I said. This is what people thought happened on January 6th. Your democracy wasn't stolen on January 6th. It was stolen by corporations decades ago, and this is proof. Here's your evidence. If you think that a bunch of guys in pajama bottoms and a buffalo helmet were the ones who overturned your democracy, you're a fucking chump of the highest order. You probably think the president isn't demented and Fauci isn't a criminal. And you probably think that they told you the truth about COVID. You probably do. They do it right out in the open, as Chris Hezage says. They lie, cheat, and steal. They do it right out in the open. They did this right out in the open. Nobody in the country wanted them to do this except a handful of billionaires. And they did it anyway, and they did it right on TV. I mean,
it shows you how far we've come, too, because the last time something like this happened was in 1917, when the federal authorities overtook, national railway companies and stuff like that. But it was during World War I. They did it because of World War I to try and, help the war effort. Now they're just doing it to protect corporate profits.
Wait, Obama signed. So get a load of this, Jackson. Obama signed an executive order in 2015 giving federal contractors paid sick leave. Did you know that? But no. That order specifically excluded railway workers who otherwise would have qualified.
Of course.
So Biden can literally just issue an executive order to give rail workers sick days.
Of course. That's why this is a litmus test. It's so much different than standing up for Amazon workers or Starbucks workers because of the power that railway workers hold in this country and have historically held.
Look, I know it seems simple. Oh, he can just sign an executive order. But there's some nuance here that people don't understand. Biden is utterly corrupt and doesn't give a shit. That's the nuance they're missing. So he ain't gonna fucking do that. Joe Biden is there as the enemy of these workers. He's your enemy unless you're a millionaire. Joe Biden is your enemy. He's not your friend. All these asshole fucking Democrats who just voted for Joe Biden thinking that they were doing breaking their arm, patting themselves on the back like they just voted for a fucking saint instead of a fucking war criminal, enemy of the people, racist like Joe Biden. And probably a raper. That's how you own the MAGA. You vote for a warmongering war criminal who's an enemy of brown and black people and probably a certified raper. That's a good own. And he's the only guy in the country who's a bigger liar than Trump. That's quite a pull. God damn it. So here, Obama issued an executive order mandating paid sick leave for employees of all federal contractors, but exempted railroad workers. All Biden needs to do is issue an executive order that removes this exemption. That's it. Railroads have spent $180 billion on dividends and stock buybacks since 2010. $180 billion. Paid sick leave for workers would cost $375 million. That's less than 3 cents of each dollar of profit this year. Well, that's 3 cents profit that could be donated to help Ukraine. That's what I say. So do you see the kind of rapacious fucking oligarchy we live in? They won't give the people who generated $180 billion in profit for them, they won't give them sick days, which would cost them a little over $250 million. They made 180 of the billions. They won't. Not only will they not give them one of the billions, they won't even give them $500 million.
No, and all of these, I shouldn't say all, but a lot of these people that claim to be progressives, they can understand that this is a problem, that this is an issue, and that workers should be given what they deserve, or at least what they're trying to bargain for, when the level of disparity is so high. But then come election time, they're going to tell you to vote for the same exact Democrats that caused this crisis in the first place.
Splitting the bills, which is what I told you what they did. They split the bill so it could be squashed in the Senate and they wouldn't get sick days. Splitting the bills, which to say preemptively conceding the only meaningful leverage workers had prior to pushing for paid sick leave, has only one logical purpose, making it so the sick leave part is only a PR prop that will go nowhere but be severely watered down in the Senate. That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Losing my mind here. I'm not a Congressional Progressive Caucus hater. Oh, good for you, virtue signaler. Look, I'm reasonable. I'm not like Jimmy Dore. You fucking cunt coward. What a fucking cunt coward. I'm a cunt coward, but how is this not the most plainly obvious scam ever presented to their base? Why else would the bills split if not to doom the good part? Of course that is. But you don't hate them for doing that. You don't hate them for doing that. You're a good person. He doesn't hate them, Jackson. He's a good guy. He's a good person. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. He doesn't hate them. He just tells you that they're the fucking scum of the earth, but he doesn't hate them. He just tells you they're completely transparent charlatan fucking liars, but he doesn't hate them. He's a good guy. He's not like Jimmy Dore. What a fucking coward. What do you want to say?
It's like when Karen Kasparian came out and said she was done with the squad and done with the Democrats.
Yeah.
And then, the next week, of course,
day,
is back to defending them.
The next day. Hey, Adam, let me know when you get your balls back from whoever fucking bought them. Let me know when that happens. You fucking coward cunt. The squad and the Justice Democrats back. So this is more of that bullshit. This is more of that Ryan Grimm bullshit. So Wahid Shahid Waleed Shahid says the squad and the Justice Democrats backed members stood with rail workers. Jesus fucking Christ.
Wasn't he one of the founders of original members of the Justice Democrats too?
I guess.
He was like AOC's campaign manager for a while.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Involved.
And immediately fired him as soon as she got fired.
Yes.
Yes. Anyway, they flexed their block, Jackson. Did you see how they flexed their block? They flexed their block so much that railroad workers don't have sick days. That's that block flexing. I think you guys forgot the block part.
They flexed the block on behalf of the Democratic Party. Rashida Tlaib, she was the only one in the House that voted against this, right? Out of the progressives, I'm pretty sure.
She did. I know she did vote against it. I don't know if she's the only one, but I know she did. I know
I think she was.
I know Corey Bush, Jamal Bowman. They bragged about supporting this. I think AOC did too. They bragged about it. And they're lying. They're pretending that this is what the unions wanted. No, the unions wanted to be able to strike because they would win that strike like that. They didn't want what they really wanted was people like Bernie Sanders and the squad to stand up against this bill and against the leadership and call them out, but they never will do that. I mean, ever wonder? Oh, so here we go. Here's Corey Bush. Every worker deserves paid sick leave. I will not support the deal that does not provide our rail workers with the paid sick leave they need. And you did. That bill that passed the Senate doesn't have sick leave in it. Did you vote for that? Here she is. Railroad workers grind themselves to the bone for this country as their labor produces billions for Wall Street. And now the Democrats and me are going to screw them out of sick leave while tweeting bullshit. They demand the basic dignity of paid sick leaves. I stand with them. No, you don't. If Congress intervenes, it should have been to have workers' backs and secure their demands in legislation. But you didn't. You passed a bill that you knew would screw workers, and it did. You fucking liars. No, we passed the other bill, though, that had the 7th, and you knew that was never going to pass the Senate. Listen, I can't in good conscience, this is Jamal Bowman, I can't in good conscience vote for a bill that doesn't give rail workers the paid leave they deserve. We fumbled this and Build Back Better. We can't do that again. Did it again. Did it again. Wonder why people vote for Trump, Jamal. Why do you think people vote for Trump?
That's what I was about to say. You have a problem. You know these people aren't quote unquote socialists when they're getting outflanked on socialist issues by people as far right wing as Marjorie Taylor Greene.
That's right. How pathetic. You get out-lefted by hard right-wingers. You get out-lefted by them on issues about unions.
Yeah.
Here's Rashid Tlaib. She actually did vote against it, right? Yeah. Last year, the rail industry made a record-breaking $20 billion in profits. They can afford to give their workers paid sick leave. The rail industry must put the quality of life of their employees over profits. I stand with rail workers.
Good for her.
Good for you. Be nice to see you call out your leadership for passing this. It'd be nice to see you fucking do something except tweet. But that's more than anybody else did. So I guess I'll take it, I guess.
You're asking for too much, Jimmy.
I am asking for a lot. My thoughts and tweets are with the rail workers. They say Trump's lies are offensive. These war pigs, which they all are, they're war pigs. Bernie Sanders and squad, they're all war pigs. And now when are progressives going to get sick of this constant gaslighting and lying while their representatives side with billionaires and our oppressors? # fraud squad. When is that going to happen? At least Joe Biden took the important first step of saying he's pro-union. Would you rather have a guy who also won't help you, but doesn't even pretend to want to help you? I want the guy who's going to pretend. At least pretend. Hey, friend of the show, David Sirota makes it.
Oh, boy.
He says, just want to reiterate that McCarthy could become speaker. No, I'm sorry. Just want to reiterate at this point that every blue zombie on this site, is he saying this to a mirror? That every blue zombie on this site can acknowledge Democrats were under no obligation to do anything. They were under no obligation to pass any legislation at all. They chose to pass legislation that rail barons needed to crush the workers. So the Democratic Party, which he will tell you is you're a bad person if as a human being, if you don't vote for them, you're a bad person. He knows exactly what they do, and he still tells you to vote for them. What is the psychology of that? It's weak. It's the ultimate weak.
It's insanity. He's going to tell everyone not to just vote for them. He's going to tell everyone to donate to them, to go campaign for them.
That's right.
I mean, this is literally fascism. They're not even, like he said, they're not even just saying no to the workers' demands. They're telling the workers, you're not allowed to
organize.
Protest.
You're not allowed
it's
to
like what
organize.
They did to the air traffic controllers. You're not allowed to organize.
And, boy, if the squad got this upset, just imagine how angry Cenk and the gang over at TIT will be when they hear of this union busting going on. Boy, if you thought he lost it over Tim Pool, just wait till he finds out that a union was treated unfairly. Whew! I wouldn't want to be the bloated tycoon who has to face the wrath of Cenk Uygur on this one. I'm kidding. Cenk's not a union guy. Shama Sawan says, I stand with rail workers against the rotten deal being imposed by Democrats, including so-called progressives in Congress. If rail workers call actions and rallies this week, my office will be there. Labor must fight back with mass action to win a strong contract with paid sick leave. Where is that tweet from AOC? Hey, if labor contacts me, I'll be there for you. Let's do this. Let's go out. Let's protest. No, where is that from the head of the Progressive Caucus? Where is that from any of those people in Congress? Is Bernie telling people to go protest? I don't think so. A road mechanic who voted for Biden now feels the president is turning his back on rail workers. Here we go.
You voted for President Biden, but now you say you feel like he's turned his back on you. Why?
Well, what we've seen with this great rail strike of 22 that has ended very undramatically is we've seen unionized workers' right to bargain collectively get trampled on. Their voice has not been heard. They voted against a contract. We have a pro-labor president who loves to, pat himself on the back for that. And when the going got tough, he turned his back on the people he's supposed to be looking out for.
And with this bill that is now going to go to President Biden pass the House, it had a separate measure that actually had 7 paid sick days for you and your colleagues. That did not make it through the Senate. They voted against it. Are you asking President Biden not to sign this bill?
It's a good question. You don't go against what your members vote for. So shout out to Jamal Brown for getting that bill going and looking out for us. But the sick days was more of a distraction. The main attraction here is Joe Biden forced a contract on our unionized workers who voted against it. And listen, we don't want to strike, but the only way we can get a fair contract is to strike. That's our only leverage. The rail carriers do not negotiate in good faith. The Railway Labor Act does not have time limits on these contracts we negotiate. So that can mean we can be negotiating a contract for 5 years. And we have no power to get a good contract. Our only leverage is to strike. And I feel like this whole process, the workers have kind of been demonized where it's like, y'all are trying to shut the economy down. We're not. We're out here working 14 hours a day in all weather conditions. Most of us work outside. We need some sick days. Why aren't you guys talking to the rail carriers? We're out here every day working, moving freight, making things happen. And when the leaders we vote in who are supposed to support us, turn their back on us, the system's broken.
So there you go. That's vote blue for Save Democracy, and you get fascism. I hope you're happy, stupid fuckers on purpose. Anything you want to say to end this, Jackson?
I'm just happy to see Crystal Ball landed a solid spot at CNN now that Breaking Points is failing.
I wouldn't say they're failing. They added almost 4,000 subscribers last month. Hey, we're doing live stand-up comedy in Los Angeles, December 9th, 16th, 23rd, and 30th. And we're going to be in Tempe, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Nashville. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets. See you there.